Good morning and welcome to Kid News. I'm Tori. Today is Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. And we begin with one small step for gardeners that could be one giant leap for space travel. For the first time, scientists have grown plants in soil from the moon. The samples were collected during the Apollo missions in the late 1960s and early 1970s. The experiment used Thale cress, a small flowering plant native to Eurasia and Africa that is edible, though not too tasty. But it is in the same plant family as broccoli, kale, and turnips. So the study could lead the way to grow plants that would supply both food and oxygen on the moon. And the timing is good for NASA's Artemis program, hoping to land the first woman and the first person of color on the lunar South Pole by the end of this decade. Details of this plant experiment were just published in the journal Communications Biology. McDonald's is trying to hightail it out of Russia. The fast food chain had temporarily closed all 850 restaurants in that country back in early March after President Putin invaded Ukraine. Now, with no end to the conflict in sight, the company says it wants to sell off its stores and is looking for a local buyer that will keep all its workers. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and other Republican senators visited Ukrainian President Zelensky over the weekend. Also, the U.S. Senate is expected to take a final vote on a $40 billion aid package for Ukraine as soon as tomorrow. The cost of mailing a letter is going up. Again, the U.S. Postal Service is expected to increase prices in July, raising the cost of a forever stamp from 58 cents to 60. And that may not be all. The Postmaster General warned more price hikes are needed at an uncomfortable rate until the agency is no longer losing money. Meanwhile, across the pond, the British Postal Service, the Royal Mail, has announced they plan to increase the use of drones over the next 3 years to provide faster and better service, especially for people living in remote areas. They'll start by sending drones to the mail center on a few small islands off the British coast, and then a human will deliver the post to the correct homes. Elon Musk says his $44 billion deal to buy Twitter is temporarily on hold. In a tweet on Friday, the Tesla and SpaceX founder said that he's concerned about the number of spam or fake accounts on the social media platform. A Reuters report earlier this month estimated that less than 5% of Twitter accounts were fake. Musk says he wants details on whether this calculation is accurate. But the billionaire added he remains committed to acquiring the platform. The deal is expected to close later this year. In sports news, this doesn't happen very often in baseball. For just the 6th time since 1901, a team allowed no hits but still lost. Hunter Green, a rookie right-hander, was on the mound for Cincinnati and struck out 9 Pittsburgh batters in the first 7 innings, but allowed 2 walks in the bottom of the 8th. He was replaced with a new pitcher, who then walked another player, so the bases were loaded. In the next play, Ke'Bryan Hayes hit into a fielder's choice to drive in the only run of the game. Green, the losing pitcher, told reporters afterwards, "It would have been great to have a different outcome, but it is what it is." And tennis great Novak Djokovic has become just the 5th man in history to reach 1,000 tour wins. He achieved this milestone with a straight-set victory in the Italian Open semifinals over the weekend. And after the match, the 20-time Grand Slam winner was presented with a large cake that had the number 1,000 written on top in bright red icing. That's it for Kid News. A big thank you to all our generous donors. You help keep this podcast of news just for kids on the air and ad-free. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, just go to our website, kidnews.org, and click on the Donate button. Now, the Kid News quiz. For the first time, plants were grown in soil that came from where? The moon. How much could a forever stamp cost in July? 60 cents. Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter is on hold because he's concerned about what? Spam or fake accounts. What happened in the Reds-Pirates game that rarely occurs in baseball? A team had a no-hitter, but still lost. In our Kid News Kicker, a little boy is being hailed as the little cook god in China. 6-year-old kindergartner Wang Yongchen started learning to cook a few years ago from his dad, who is a former hotel chef, so he could make food for his mom, who is often busy working. By age 4, Yongchen could prepare clay pot rice, a traditional dish from southern China that involves cutting sausages into thin slices. He can also make scrambled eggs with tomatoes and fried Chinese yam. When his teacher asked kids to bring utensils from home to learn cooking earlier this month, Yongchen brought in a small electric stove and made omelets. His classmates were so impressed they invited their friends from other classes to sample Yongchen's breakfast. Before we go, we want to give a big Kid News shout out to our terrific teachers and their students. Mrs. Allman at South Terrace in Owensville, Indiana. Mom Kim at Compton Homeschool with the mascot Derby the dog in Blue Springs, Missouri. Mrs. Jones and her hardworking class at Spring Forge Intermediate in Manchester, Pennsylvania. Mrs. Walden at South Salem Elementary in Covington, Georgia. And Mrs. Wilson and her awesome Wildcats at Weir Middle School in Weir, New Hampshire. Thanks for listening. We hope you tune in for more Kid News tomorrow morning.